This world is wrong. Space Funeral is an RPG Maker game that is pretty well known for its absurd art style, and I've always wondered what the hell kind of game this would be. A game with blood caverns, weird wizards, and a literal high-ass Dracula. What could this game possibly be about? Well, let's look into it. Welcome to Space Funeral. The intro sequence is a green zombie head with blood coming out, the title in front, and all the options are just labeled blood. Starting the game, we have our protagonist, Philip, in his pajamas as we see the odd house. A table, skeleton skulls everywhere, a zombie in a suit, and an old woman. On the right is our protagonist laying in a casket. The zombie says, "Me and your mother think you should leave." Interacting with the casket, we see that it heals us a bit, but not much. You can also get some rubles from a treasure chest in the corner. Going outside, we can see that our house and all the others are skull heads with blood and open mouths. There's more skull blocks everywhere with crying street lamps and spikes. Slow guitar music with vocals play in the background, giving the environment an odd and uncanny feeling. The very right house has 3 muscle NPCs in it who can give you tips about fighting enemies and tactics as well. As we move from place to place, Philip's walk cycle seems to have tears stream down as he silently wails, flailing his arms. A light bulb fish-looking thing outside one of the houses tells us about the wizard on the cliff, but how it's also too late for us. The middle house has a man who has no head talking about a lion village that gave rubles for old steak. Another house has a lady selling items like a knife, nuts, and blood to heal our player for when they get into fights. On the cliff is a red zombie head house where we can find the wizard of Scum Village, who says it's too late for us. But he says that there is one perfect city, a divine construct from which derives all things in this world. He details how all things are manifestations of this perfect city. However, it was corrupted, and now everyone is doomed. A different wizard, however, Wizard Grum, lives in the Blood Cavern and is our only hope of finding the perfect city. He also recommends us going to the Bone Swamp to the east of the town, which has interesting things for tough fights ahead. Going to the right of the town, we end up in a completely different area with a shop girl who offers us a ship if we pay some rubles. There are bloody lemon-like heads in the water along with odd foliage and bones. The music when riding in the boat is oddly serene while we go through the pink waters. There's an island with a head where we can enter a cave with small, crawly enemies and arms. There's even soldiers that warn us of a monster, while another tells us that his friend is lying on the ground in pain and needs a bag of blood to be healed. The music in the cave is oddly serene again, but also mysterious and reminds me of the background to a Pink Panther cartoon. Giving the wounded soldier a big blood bag from another room of the cavern gives us an ability called Coin Trick. My first fight in this game was against 2 crawlers in the cave, where we can start to examine the battle mechanics. Philip has health, a condition, MP, and a timer. Health and condition should be pretty obvious. Condition specifically can be something like distracted or poisoned, which either makes them more likely to miss or taking damage. But MP is the number that allows us to use skills against enemies, magic power, as it's often referred to. The timer makes it so that you can't just spam attacks during a battle. On the right, we have attack, where we can do damage, skills, where we can use MP to do a variety of special actions, mystery, which is completely random effects in battle based on the enemy, or items, which, again, should be obvious. Some of mystery ranges from buffing enemies to instantly killing them, to making weird things randomly happen. Philip also has a kind of funny attack animation, and there's funny music that plays during the battle and when you win. Winning a battle gets you rubles, items, and experience to level up your character. The last room of the cave is blocked by a swamp trog, this pretty rainbow creature that attacks you if you disturb it. Defeating the creature allows you to enter his lair and has chests of items you can use. Now we can leave the cave and the swamp to make our way north to where the wizard told us to go. The next area has bloodhounds that look like, well, you can guess based on the sprite. There's also an NPC of a man without a head talking about how ram heads were a more civilized time. Weird. There's 2 caves openings in the cliffs up ahead. One that has a head that doesn't allow you to enter, while the other has a mysterious letter saying to expect the worst, with a pentagram in the same room. Going farther up, we can end up seeing a horse made out of legs being attacked by 2 blood dogs. He makes us join him in a fight against them, sounding high and mighty. Being made out of legs, most of the leg horse's attacks regard kicking, and after the fight, he takes control and says how we will accompany him to the wizard in the Blood Cavern. In the next area, we can even find a land shark enemy on our way to the Blood Dock, and I just really like the design of this one. A lot of these enemies have really neat designs, especially when you consider the art style. which is just all over the place in most cases. On the dock, we can find the captain to his ship, which can take us to the Blood Cavern, but we need to buy a ticket. There's also a criminal who says they are going north to join Rip the Blood. Another lion mentions the Secret Lion Village, and we can meet up with the shop girl to get a ticket and some other materials. In the shop, there's also things like Bibles and old movies, which are used to be more effective on certain enemies. Bibles are more effective against criminals, old movies are more effective against ghosts. Going on the raft, we can talk to other characters, but talking to Leghorse, he points something coming downstream. An error. It shifts textures quickly, and Leghorse heard that no one knows what they originally were. Something broke and couldn't be translated during the Great Change. But in the world they exist now, no one can imagine what it once was. The shape no longer exists. But now our next stop is the Blood Cavern. This world is all black and drenched with red blood, and its backtrack seems to be a woman talking with a deep filter and reverb. I'll try and play a portion of it now.
When the earth is turned into a gripping dungeon in which hope, like a bat, flutters blindly and bruises its timid wing and tender head against the walls.
She speaks in what seems to be senseless babbling, this abstract red world with the abstract language of a desolate world drenched without hope. Once we get to the end of it, Leghorse speaks with Wizard Grum privately, and then after he's done, he allows us to speak with him. The wizard said they will tell us of our journey, but we need to give him blood. So, he'll suck our blood and says he needs more, which you need to give to him. If you agree a third time, he'll kill you. I hope you had saved up until this point. I didn't. So you need to deny him the third time so that he tells you to leave the cave and go to the town of Malice, then go east to the Mystery Forest. Next, we head through the North Ghost Forest leading to the Wasteland, where we will meet an old friend of Wizard Grum. This is supposed to lead us to the City of Forms, but Wizard Grum suspects we'll die before that and laughs. In trying to leave, Leghorse makes us wait up, and says they want to accompany us to the City of Forms with their own reasons. So, we're off. Walking through the next cavernous hall, we're stopped by a terrifying face that turns out to be a blood ghoul that we need to defeat. After killing it, we can leave the cave and end up in a desert. This is the wasteland desert that leads to Malice. We can find pig people that say how Malice is infested with criminals, and another pig afraid of Rip the Blood from finding him. The shop girl is even outside of the town because of all the criminals there. Going further right, we can end up in the town of Malice. One pig mentions a strange figure in the Mystery Forest named 20th Century Boy. On the right, there are two criminals blocking the path to move forward, so we can only really go left and explore the town. We can find a bird person named Malik, warning against mummies, as well as a post office and other people that talk of a djinn who can grant wishes. There's another pig who gives us a hint regarding the Rip the Blood's bridge. Right, left, right, middle. We don't want to know what it means for now, but it should be useful later. We can also pay a bird person to bring us to a pyramid where we can go through a giant maze to avoid mummies and steal treasure. If the mummies touch us, then we get sent back to the outside of the pyramid. But now we have a bunch of treasure. In the town, we can go left to find a farm that has steaks that you can harvest. Taking one of the old steaks, you can get into the secret village, which I did not approach in my playthrough. But here's an image of it. There's also a wizard Yorm who can change or fix your form, which might be needed later. Going north, we can find more deserts and mines, fighting criminals, bomb-headed dogs, and skeletons with nurse caps. Now, we could go into Rip the Blood's fortress, or we could cause chaos with a secret entrance. The secret entrance is a reservoir for water, and we can flip a switch to release a bunch of mummies into the fortress. This leads to us walking to the entrance and hearing people yell about the mummies infesting it now. The halls are also full of skeleton heads that hurt you if they touch you, and you need to flip switches and solve some basic movement puzzles to get past them, and avoiding dying to them. We can then find the levers to make a bridge appear where we can use the hint from before, turning on the bridge. After this, we can enter a room with the mummies leading to the Hall of Rip the Blood, the king of crime, who searched for the mystical djinn and his mining operation was meant to uncover it. He then reminisces about the first man he ever killed and just starts a fight before even finishing his story. Asshole. Beating him is actually relatively easy, and after we can find the djinn in a room behind his throne. When we see it, Leghorse asks to return to his true form, in which the djinn says that this is his true form now. The djinn then asks Philip what he would like, and we can choose from money, power, or happiness. I chose happiness, in which you get a copy of Crossing the Rivers of You, Actualizing Your Self-Potential in 30 Days or Less by Paul Scud, PhD. Your punishment for your hubris, however, turns you into a fish. Now that Leghorse knows he needs to go to the City of Forms to turn back, he says that we should just continue. But luckily, our form is temporary, if we just ask the wizard to change us back. Now the criminals preventing us from going right before are gone, so we can continue to the mysterious forest, with orange water, blue and purple grass, and weird foliage. There's even elves that we could just pick up and steal. Grabbing all of them lets you find a secret elf village who lets you take some items and 5 drops, which can make your enemy toxic. Going farther, we can see new odd enemies. Going all the way right, we can find a dilapidated house, where Leghorse remembers that this was his home. He was once Prince Horus, not Leghorse. Then the peaceful kingdom became this nightmare. He doesn't know where his brother Dag went either. But then Leghorse hears something. A guitar riff. A man in a blue suede suit appears with slick-backed hair. The figure mentions some lyrics, and Leghorse calls them a ripoff. The sprite is apparently a reference to glam rocker Mark Bolan, named after his song 20th Century Boy. Thank you, Wikipedia. Leghorse is so insulted that he engages the man in battle. After defeating 20th Century Boy, he mentions Horus by name, and Leghorse is confused, not recognizing his own brother. Dag explains that with his new form, he lost his mind and started defending the house. But now he wants Leghorse to avenge him by getting rid of the cancer that caused all this. The next area is a snowy wasteland where we can even find Dracula's castle. Inside, we can find a plush and nice-looking manor, with a Dracula that looks like Manny from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, who likes to play piano and smoke weed. Okay. Going farther, we finally end up at the City of Forms. Made of abstract colors, incorrect textures, morphing sprites, a city that has changed drastically to be sore on the eyes. The city, if you can call it that, is just as broken. Different blocks and colors as you enter through the gate, with such an odd yet beautiful environment in some surrealist, twisted way. Like chaotically throwing vibrant colors onto a canvas. There's even a hall composed of every NPC sprite that we've seen throughout the game, until we get to the final boss. A morphing, colorful head of sprites that changes constantly, with a striped colored background behind him. Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the City of Forms, nor formless. What? Who are you? Can you be? Yes, I am the moon. It is I who have corrupted the city, many years ago. Time passes so queerly here. I was an artist. I sought perfection in all things. So seeking to be inspired, I traveled to this city, a place of pure form. It was perfect. It destroyed me. Nothing could be created which was not a pathetic mockery of the objects of the city. The finest works paled in comparison. In the face of such beauty, I felt corrupted, an animal. Our world meant nothing. We were all graceless, creatures of slime. I was practically comatose for months when I realized what I had to do. So you turn the city and world into a grotesque mockery of itself? Don't you see? The perfection of the city left us important. We have to destroy that so we can build again. Still not enough, you know. Even now I can feel echoes of this perfect world. In the chance permutations of our broken copy. Perhaps another great change. Yes. And more until it becomes self-perpetuating. A ceaseless chaos of forms. Perhaps I already have. Perhaps we've had this conversation many times, you and I, with places exchanged. Perhaps, but it stops here. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Motherfucker! With that, we fight the moon. His battle sprite is a cacophony of previous sprites melded together in a monster of blue and red. Once we beat the boss, we can see him laying on the ground of the glitched world while Leghorse wonders why it isn't back. The dying moon says that everything is slipping back to perfection, and as we run, he coughs on his own blood, telling us to enjoy our perfect world. The next scene we see is a bright and cheery fantasy world with happier music to match. We see our two characters stand side by side, and then the camera scrolls to the right, where we see one last zombie head house, as the credits roll and the music plays. This game is odd in almost every regard. The story, the characters, the visuals, the music and environments, Every decision was odd within a confusing and surreal world. But that's why it's great. The reason may be weird because it actually needs a little context with the game engine itself to understand the game. This world is broken, at least in the eyes of many of its inhabitants, but not its creator. Or rather, manipulator. The game is oddly beautiful with all of its vivid colors and environments. Everything is confusing. Skeleton skulls as enemies, dogs with bomb heads, and even a random Dracula house in a snowy tundra. But as I said earlier, the story's a little bit deeper than we suspect. The artist who was pained by the perfection of the world, it was too perfect. No space for improvement. The world becoming perfect turns into the basic textures of RPG Maker 2003. These fantasy RPG characters with castles and built-in structures for easily making of, well, RPGs. The reason it can be seen as perfect is because this is the base state of the world that many RPGs use. Even in Steam you can find games made with RPG Maker using only the base textures within the engine. Now, the thing about this is that the ease of use of the engine. A lot of people's first games just used the built-in textures. However, there was an era where people were just using them to pump out quick, unoriginal games on platforms. I remember finding a post from someone discussing the game and talking about how mobile platforms had a lot of crappy and simple RPG Maker games just being pumped out onto them. But it's the death of interesting ideas and creativity. So the creator has a world that is chaotic and abnormal to us, but it was made because there was no room for creativity in a perfect cookie-cutter world. It became a city of forms. A city of random forms, colors, and objects meant to test creativity. However, some called it a cancer, just because it's change. A lot of people may not mind, but some see it as a hell. The game poses a question, though. Is it better to live with ugly creative expression or cookie-cutter unoriginal perfection? In my eyes, I see this game as a kind of beautiful, interesting, and colorful world that's creative and surreal. But these characters have had their world overridden and radically changed. They see it as a cancer that attacks their way of life and world. But in whose eyes do we trust the beauty of the world? The music is scattered in the soundtrack, and I'm pretty sure I can't play like any of them in the video without getting copyrighted. So yeah, the game is actually pretty simple, but gives potential where you can find some many neat things in the world, if you just look a little bit. Whether it be item combinations or using the mystery option on more of the enemies, there's just a bunch of interesting aspects to this small game. Because that's really what it is. A small game. My recording is roughly an hour and 40 minutes, and I took a 35-minute break from my computer halfway through, and then I got halfway through the game the first time and died, which helped me find out that there was no autosaves. It's actually pretty fun if you're into RPG Maker games that are not RPG and less puzzle. I will say though, it's a bit boring because everything is super easy. I barely died and there wasn't much of a challenge in the fights. The game seems to be less upon the ideas of an RPG and more of the story or message or world that the creator wanted to tell. But if you like longer RPG Maker games that are more story-based, watch my videos on Anne and the Strange Man series. They're pretty cool games. Back to Spade's Funeral, it's small and on itch.io. I recommend it because it's so unique compared to a lot of what others give you. It was such an interesting experience. I loved the art style and music choice as it just gave an acid trip feeling of the world. Everything is beautiful on its own, and then when it's thrown together, it creates a sort of experience that reminds me more of Omega Mart, if you've ever seen the videos of it or happen to have gone. It feels like that. A symphony of chaotic designs that are all beautiful in their own right, but when you put them together, it makes something different. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in this, check out some of my others. You should also check out my second channel, The Day Shift, linked below along with my channel Discord, and the game. As always, comments, criticisms, and suggestions are always welcome. It's been me, Mush. Like and comment if you enjoyed, because it helps out the video and it helps out the channel. I'll see you later. Arrivederci.